Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How are you doing? It's Russ here. Focus Corner, video 10 up members area. Today I'm joined by Kent from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and he's going to be the host today. How are you doing, Kent?
Good afternoon, Russell. Good afternoon, Rocky.
Say hello, Rock. Hello.
If it was Max,
are you supposed to stand to attention?
If it was Max, he would be barking.
Max, Jesus, Max has won, hasn't he? He's won his debut.
Doing well.
He's gone big time now, Max, after sponsorship and all sorts. So let's see where he ends up. But let's hope he takes good advice and doesn't end up on slab. It's a cool sport, boxing, isn't it?
It's brutal.
But what can you do? How's Kent anyway? How are you feeling? You don't look so
okay, Russell. Dead on. I've just isolating at the minute. I've got COVID, so just making the most of time off.
Any of your family got it as well?
Yeah, mother's got it as well. So
I'm sorry.
Just need to. It's just unfortunate. So she's been bad the last few days, and today she seems to be a bit better. But it's coming and going. One minute she's awful, and one minute I'm awful, and then you think you're all right, and then bang, you're back to square one. So hopefully in another week or so, it's feeling a bit better. But I'm going to make the most of my time off. I've been doing a couple of scripts for the last couple of days, so may as well make the most of being off for a few days, Russell.
Yeah, you may as well. Mate. What would you like to cover today, Ken?
I've been watching a lot of boxing as I do, and you just look through and you look through the archives, and I've been following Robin Reid's career, and I find it's a very, very interesting career Robin had. You know, as an amateur, and he had absolutely outstanding pedigree as an amateur. Mm-hmm. And as a professional, he had outstanding pedigree as a professional right through to the end of his career. You know, I just look at the who's who he's fought and the amount of titles he fought for, the fighters he had fought.
The undefeated guys he fought: Sven Otke, not Brian McGee,
Joe Calzaghe,
Froch, Jeff Lacey, to name a few. I don't know if McGee were undefeated. I think he might have had. I'm not sure. Were me and McGee undefeated when Robin Reid fought?
Kenny Anderson as well.
Kenny Anderson. I'm not sure if McGee were undefeated. I'd have to check that.
McGee, let me see. McGee was. No, McGee was undefeated at the time.
Oh yeah, already 25-2 when he fought McGee. Oh, was it Cobra?
Cobra.
Oh, Carl Froch.
Cobra.
25-2 when he fought Carl. Yeah, so Robin Reid gave McGee's first defeat, and he went on to win a world title, didn't he? He was an IBO champion as well, wasn't he?
He was an IBO champion, and he went, and Brian had that strange career as well. At one stage, you know, there was nothing much happening domestically, and he was offered an opportunity to fight for the European title in Denmark. And, you know, that's crazy money. And he went and he won a title in Denmark. And he says the money he got for that fight was the equivalent of a world title fight. So he won one of those WBA interim belts, which basically paid a mortgage for him and changed his career, and he built a gym over it. But at that time, Brian McGee was getting a massive build-up in Belfast. You know, that was one of the very first fights I ever seen. The Brian McGee against Jason Bad Boy Barker in the Ulster Hall, and it was on a Damien Kelly undercard, and it was a good fight. You know, Brian McGee was. It seemed to be then, Russell, that there was a lot of good fighters coming through with great amateur backgrounds.
Didn't Calzaghe pull out of a McGee fight because he didn't want to fight another southpaw? That's what I heard.
I don't know if it was because of the Southpaw thing, Russell. It was because I heard something about the WBO. He wasn't a mandatory. It was an involuntary defence,
Yeah.
and it was pulled on 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon. And I was on work that day. I worked in a newspaper factory, and me and one of the couple of guys were going to see the fight. We're on our tea break a half an hour before it, and we were so excited about going to the fight. And then, as soon as the radio come on, and and give the news, we were absolutely gutted. So I don't know if Brian McGee would have beat Kazai. I don't think he would have, but it would have been just great to see, a big fighter, because Belfast at that time, we weren't getting very much big fights, just the odd Brian McGee fight. The Matchroom at the time were coming over, and the cards weren't great. It was a top end card, where heavy end, where at the end of the card it was a good fight, but below the card like that, there was no real depth. It wasn't great at the time.
Weren't they doing something with Paul McCloskey back then, Matchroom?
Paul McCloskey actually debuted on that night that Calzaghe was meant to fight Brian McGee. And I went to the card and watched it, and he was absolutely lethal. And then after that, it was the whole build-up of duty. It was the whole build-up, and he got featured quite a lot at that time on Sky Boxing, and had a great career. I used to go and watch. I used to work with a guy that was professional at the time, and he really invited me to the gym. And that time in Belfast was there was great gym in Belfast. It was John Breen's gym, and at that time they had Neil Sinclair, they had Eamon McGee, they had Wayne Alexander, they had Martin Rogan, and had Colin Moffat at the time, who
Come on, out.
And it was just a great time for boxing in Northern Ireland and Belfast, but there wasn't very much happening. And Kevin O'Hara as well was in the gym at that time, and they had a really, really good stable of fighters. And I would have called round the odd time to, it was an old-fashioned gym. It was at the top of a pub, and there was a bookies at the bottom, and I would have called in the odd time and would have watched sparring and stuff, and it was just a great time. It was just great. And you would had the likes of Junior Witter and all would have come over and sparred and all at the time. And I seen Junior Witter spar and fight in Belfast. But it was just a good time. And Paul McCloskey, I went to see a lot of his fights. I remember going to see him fight Bradis Prescott, and I just bought tickets of Carl at the time, who fought on the undercard for a Commonwealth title. And the top of the bill was Paul McCloskey against Prescott, and that was one of the hardest fights I've ever seen. It was just an absolute war. But Paul had a what's up, Russell? That was at the Odyssey Arena, so it was.
The where Brian McGee used to fight. Was it Ulster Hall or something?
It was the King's Hall, Russell.
Oh, that's it. Do you know that King's Hall? What's that like when it's packed? Is it a good atmosphere?
It was the mecca of boxing in Belfast at the time, Russell. Now it's been bought over now. It's going to be like a pharmacy, like office unit.
Oh, wow.
Alex,
is that what
some big?
I don't like stuff like
yeah. No, I don't. I'll actually send you a few photos of it when I'm back out again. But that was where all the Barry McGuigan nights were had in the King's Hall. It was just a magnificent place. It was. I went to see Tyson Fury there as well. Tyson Fury had a fight in the King's Hall against Nikolai Forte.
Oh, yeah,
it was on Channel 5. Yeah, Rogan was in the Odyssey. Now at that time, the King's Hall, you could see it was kind of like.
Oh, that Rogan. Did Tyson fight Rogan? Did he? Yeah.
Yeah, he fought him in the Odyssey.
Lost Audley Harrison, didn't he?
Audley Harrison twice. He lost a 10-rounder to Audley lost a 10-rounder to him, and Rogie just battered him, just outfought him, outboxed him. Just Rogie was tough, But going back to the King's Hall, then you could see it was kind of a bit run down. It hadn't been maintained, but it was still an absolutely brilliant arena. That was where McGuigan had his first defence of his title against Bernard Taylor at the Keynes Hall for his world title, and it was just.
Well, that was the Barney Eastwood show.
Yeah, Barney Eastwood had all his big shows then, and you go back, and that's when we had the great Caldwell and Rinty Monaghan fights way back in the 50s and 60s. It was just an absolute mecca of boxing. That was like a coliseum of boxing. It was upstairs was seated, downstairs was standing, and at the very back it was a seated area. It was actually where Amir Khan actually fought in Belfast, and I was at that show, and Eamon McGee lost his WBE title to Takaloo at the time, and
Takaloo,
he was
that's a name from the past.
Yeah, they were brilliant times. Just I was sad to see the way it's went, But going back to Robin, Russell, he had an absolutely stellar amateur career. He started off boxing as an 8-year-old. He found that he wasn't, a team player. He liked football, and he just didn't enjoy it as much. And he said he was more an individual at the time. And his mother Lynn took him down to the boxing gym, and his first boxing club was Warrington and Cumbrian. That club, I don't think is going now. I think it's amalgamated, but his first ever boxing amateur coach was Mike Rowan, and he went on, and he had a really, really good amateur career, and his amateur career carded was 51-16. That's an extremely good amateur career. And you look at, he went to the Junior World Championships in 1989 and got a silver medal, which is absolutely remarkable as a young kid.
Here at the same time. Well, I obviously took it out for a fight. The hoop earrings.
Yeah,
they were the fashion then.
Yeah, they were the fashion, and he went on, and there was a great competition as well. I always remember all the senior lads at our club talking about the Canada Cup. He went on and won the Canada Cup in '92. That was before the Barcelona Olympics, and I suppose, and he was getting all those multi-nation trips. He was getting a lot of experience, and you look now, a lot of these lads are turning over and they can't deal with boxing styles. And Robin was all over the world fighting as a kid, and fighting, African, European, American, South American styles. So you're developing as a fighter, win or lose in these multi-nation trips. You can even going around all these different cultures. You're learning a completely different way of boxing, Russell.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Yeah, he did well. He's done well, Robin. He did well. He didn't have Robert Green, I think, when he were a pro. I don't think.
No, it was a stop-start. But you look at his record, and even as an amateur, he went on and won the bronze medal in the '92 Barcelona Olympics, and that's he at the time was the first fighter in 8 years the medal at the Olympics. That's a remarkable achievement.
Well, Duke Mackenzie before him, or one at Mackenzie's.
I think it was either Duke or Clinton Mackenzie. I'm not sure. It was one of the Mackenzie brothers. It was 4 of them fighting at the time, but I think it was one of Mackenzie's.
No, I think it might have been Richie Woodall in '88, the last one to win a medal, 4 years before.
Yeah, Richie Woodall, and he beat Ole Clemenson. He won he beat Ole Clemenson for the bronze, and Ole, as you know, fought Clinton for the European. He was a really, yeah. He was a tough guy. He had a good career as a pro, and I think he was 2-time fought multiple times for the European title at the time. But he beat him at light middleweight. So you could see the growing that Robin was doing as a kid and into amateurs. And I think you look at pros now, Russell, and the mistake that they make is either they stay too long in the amateurs. Then when they turn pro, they're basically they're trying to stay at the same weight, where they're not naturally letting their body mature and grow, and that takes a lot out of a fighter.
Yeah, it does. Robin went to Olympics in 1992, and they picked him over Carl Zaghi, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did. I think it was down to Robin had consistently fought in the ABAs, I think, at the time, and he was podium, and I don't know if he won the ABAs at that time, but I think he was the way they scored it every year. He had the more points, and the Canada Cup was a really, really big cup at the time. It was a massive amateur cup. It was probably as good as the standard of the Olympics at the time. It was all them same fighters that were going to the Olympics. So he would have been picked off the back of that and consistently proven, in 89, he was a junior in Russia, silver medalist. In 91, he went to the World Championships, and 92 won the Canada Cup. So you couldn't pick anybody else really at that weight over Robin at that time, on the back of even winning the Canada Cup.
Yeah, what about his pro career? What did you think to that?
Pro career was he signed with Frank Warren at the time and Sports Network, and he turned over pro with Brian Hughes at the time, and Brian was managing and training him. It was a great, that gym back then, that Collyhurst gym in Manchester was one of the best gyms in Britain at the time, and you had the master and Brian Hughes there, and his style evolved from an amateur point scoring style to a counter and lead type style. It was very, very good as a pro. He kind of kept that good fundamentals as a amateur and kind of evolved as a pro, with working with Brian. The thing that I noticed about his career, that before he won the world title against Niceto Nardiello, it was his 23rd fight, and he had only been scheduled to go 10 rounds once before that. So it was a big gamble to put Robin in that fight, on being 25 years old, 23 fights in. He hadn't even been scheduled to go the championship distance, and to go out to Italy at the time, which was, Italy and Germany were just a hellhole to go to and win a title. I would say like Italy and Germany then would be the equivalent of going to the UK now to get a decision.
Well, he chopped him down, didn't he?
Yeah, it was good because he didn't have a great performance before that, and Sky at the time had the likes of Barry McGuigan, and they had Jim Watt, and they had Glenn McCrory, and they had Steve Collins on, and they kind of didn't give him a great build up to the fight, and it kind of offended him a wee bit, and kind of give him that wee bit of a incentive to go out and win the world title. Barry McGuigan went on and said that, basically didn't give him a chance, and thought he was too flat-footed, he was too one-paced, he didn't have the necessary levels, to go through and beat Nardiello, which he proved him absolutely. And Brian Hughes come on and said that, it was a great thing that Barry said, because he's really, really fired Robin up, and he went out there and I watched the fight today there, and he smashed Nardiello to pieces.
Yeah, he did. Chopped him down. And what did you think to his run of fights, from winning the belt to losing it, from winning it against Nardiello to losing it against Malinga? I don't know if you know this, but Malinga fight, he were in hospital. I'd been in 5 days, and on the Wednesday, checks him sent out. Went to the press conference Thursday. The weigh-in Friday. The doctor said, "Don't check your sent out, and you shouldn't be fighting." And on the Saturday, he fought. That were 5 fights, WBC fights, from winning to losing it in 15 months. Imagine that nowadays. That'd be like, wow, wouldn't it?
That just speaks for itself, Russell. And you look at the names there, the names that he fought, they weren't just pick'em fights. He had the Henry Wharton fight, which was a really, really dangerous fight in itself. And there was that Hakan Sharifi fight, who later went on and won a WBC world title himself. Sharifi, yeah. He went on, as I said there, and won a world title and was a European champion and was really, really seasoned fighter. And, the Wharton fight, Wharton had more experience than Robin getting into that fight. It was his third world title fight.
That's beautiful in that fight, didn't he?
That's, in my opinion, that was the best performance of Robin's career. And there was that whole big thing at the time when Mickey Duff and Frank Warren had the 50 grand side bet, which was absolutely hilarious. Would you see that happening now? Going to bat for their fighter. It was a great performance, and he went on and he lost it to the Malinga fight. Malinga was a seasoned world level fighter. He beat
old man did.
He did, and what I looked at the fight, Russell, Malinga got Robin the fight at his pace. He fought his type of fight. Robin, before that, against the Wharton fight, I noticed, especially in the Nardiello fight, is he was punching, his combination punching in those fights were really, really effective. His hooks and his body punches inside were really, really good. Robin had a slick style. Brand Hughes liked to train those type of slick fighters. He liked his fighters to move their head and lead and step back and counter. And the style was really, really good. Inside fighting, and he used to punch out inside his fighting as well. And it was kind of just Malinga just turned it into a job, and you could see that he wasn't 100% in that fight. It was disappointing. If that was now, you just pull out the week of the fight and there would be no real consequences there, would there?
Yeah. Do you feel that by the time he got to fight Carl Froch, you were past his best?
I think physically, you could look at it two ways, Russell. You could go physically, no, because he was a young guy, but mentally, you would probably look at it as in, when you get sickened in a certain way in life and sport, you're never quite the same after it. It hurts you, and I think if you look at it from that physically, you look at Robin now, he's in great shape. Genetics, he's great genetics in sport, and you look at what he did as an amateur right through. But psychologically, it's hard. It hurts you, and it's hard to come back from that. And the fight after that, that would have been disappointing. And he had a win. He came back and he had that big Calzaghe fight. That was at the time that you could see they were looking to use Robin as cannon fodder for Joe Calzaghe. And even as far to say, you look what the way Sports Network were production wise at that time, they were probably one of the best, boxing promotional outfits in Europe. You look at the whole events that they were putting on and the cards they did, they were a real power broker in British boxing at the time. Matchroom kind of weren't doing very, very much, and whatever they were doing at the time, it was more leisure centre based. And you watch that massive show, it was it was billed the War of the Worlds, off the Jeff Wayne's musical. It was quite it was quite funny, but they were looking to build Calzaghe at the time, and they were looking to make him a marquee fighter. And Robin, being a former world champion, that was the name and the record that they were looking to have. And it was actually, Russell, I text you, it was 23 years ago this week that fight actually taken place.
Yeah, what did you think to the old episode with the Jeff Lacey fight? Have you watched that one?
To be honest, Russell, I remember watching it when it happened, and I don't want to watch it.
Because they were training in hotel lobby, weren't they? They didn't even give him a gym out there, did they? I mean, what
Terrible.
was Harding doing for him besides lining his pocket? Barry Hearn's big chum.
He was probably the worst heavyweight the fight for a British title. He was absolutely chinless, and we'll go back to the Calzaghe fight. Calzaghe was 25-0 at the time. It was his third defense. It was a massive card. It was a massive card in Newcastle, and you look back at them times, and you think Eddie's on saying about the builds that they're putting on. I don't actually think, you look at what Matchroom are doing now, you go back to 20 years ago, they're nowhere near as good as what Frank was doing back then. Look at talent-wise, and you look what was going on at the time, the talent in those cards were brilliant. But it was a big night, and it was I think Robin was really, really up for that fight. Did you ever notice the ring walk, Robin, coming to the ring? He was really, really up for that fight. It was like, you could see how much it meant to him. It was emotionally, physically, mentally, you could see that he was really, really invested in that fight.
What did you think to the Sven Otka fight against Robin Reid, Ken?
Absolutely disgraceful.
Worst scoring I think I've ever seen, ever. That and the Abraham
Miranda
and the one in Germany.
Miranda, absolutely.
Both Sauerland shows.
Disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful.
Both IBF judges.
IBF judges, and that fight, you look back on it, and we look back now, and we're very critical as boxing supporters, and that's what we're here to do, and that's what we give an honest opinion, is how we see it. And at the time, Sky had the REID Calzaghe fight, 115. Now that was with Robin getting a point taken off in round 8, which was pretty bad, to be quite honest. And
that Roy, difference on the night, wasn't
it? It actually did. To be honest with you, I'll read out the scores, Russell. Bird had it 116, 111. Calzaghe. Yeah. Okay. Duggan had it 116, 111. And the British
111.
Yeah. And Paul Thomas, the British referee, had it 111 Calzaghe, 116 Robin.
No, I'm on about. So I know about them ones. Who were the judges on the Oakley one?
I didn't take them down, but I'm just saying that, even with the Roy Francis taking the point off at 8, it wouldn't have had. It still would have been, was still massive both ways. And the thing that annoyed me about it wasn't. He didn't get a point taken off for a particular foul. 3 headbutts, or it was for that low blow. That, yes, it was a low blow, but Calzaghe was holding quite a lot. Calzaghe leaned in with the head quite a lot. It was just really he just seemed to be up against everything in that fight.
Yeah, I look back at it now, and I think that Robin didn't really have a proper team around him not had proper advisors. They were all wanting to rinse him. Too many of them wanted to rinse him. They didn't have his best interests at heart. That's how I look at it. And everybody knows Brian Hughes Warren had Brian Hughes as hero. So I don't know. I think I always felt glasses are full with Robin Reid's career, not from his own one, not from putting effort in on his own part. I think from so many people. Yeah, Rob, you need to do this. Rob, you need to do that. And I've spoken to him for hours on end, over years about it, and I always feel that if he'd have been around now, he'd have been better advised. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's disappointing, and you look at even Carfrax's career and you look at Robin's career, they're kind of polar opposites to the point where you look at the team possibly that he had around him. It was the same people from the start to the end of his career where Robin can't.
Is Carl Frotz turned pro at the same age as Robin Reid were already winning world title? That's the difference.
Yeah.
You're all older head on younger shoulders, whereas Robin Reid, a younger head, and he were having to listen to people like your Warren, Brian Hughes, and people like that. Whereas Frotz were already his own man by that stage, already a bit stubborn as well. Whereas Robin's a bit easy. I'm not saying easily led, but I think he's just pretty easy going lad. He's not.
Yeah.
You don't make a lot of fuss. Whereas nowadays, if you did what Robin Reid did, went to Italy, not the WBC champion out, they'd be screaming blow murder on Twitter, wouldn't they, and on IFL. Whereas there wasn't none of that in them days. Well,
No, and I look back at the fight and all, and I actually had Robin winning 116, 114. I know Sky at the time gave a couple of 10-10 rounds, but you can't give 10-10 rounds in boxing. Either somebody, in my opinion, either wins the round or loses the round. And the amount of times that Robin, landed those big backhand shots and the cleaner work, punching out.
Okay.
The Calzaghe fight.
Oh, the Calzaghe fight. I've seen that 50 times, that fight. Yeah, Robin was hitting him with right hand leads all night, wasn't he?
All night long. And it was a great performance against a southpaw, getting that foot position, landing those shots. And it was sad, what happened after that fight, and you look at his career after that, the career after that was, his next fight, you would be flat. He was, after that fight, he should have been fighting, Richie Rudolph for the WBC, but instead he was fighting, Silvio Branco for a WBU title on the Lou Sabaris Mike Tyson card, which was a disaster. Nobody, I think that whole Mike Tyson UK tour at the time was burnt out off the hype of that terrible fight with Julius Francis. So that was a massive flop up in Glasgow. You had Junior Witter against Zab Judah. You had Adam Watt against Johnny Nelson. We had Donnie Williams fighting in the card. It was just absolute. It was an arena fight. It wasn't a stadium fight. And he lost that fight. And I suppose from going from sold out arena in Newcastle to fighting down the bill on an empty show that nobody was at against Silvio Branco, how would you get yourself up for that fight, Russell?
Ended up fighting on all the Harrison shows, didn't he? And
after that, yeah, Russell, he went on next fight after that. I think he had 10 fights with Jess Harney. He went to those BBC shows. The next fight after that, he won a WBF title against the last minute of Poland and Mike Gormley for a WBF title. And then he went on and had 5 defenses of that title on terrestrial TV. But I suppose it would have been hard then, from fighting on those big arenas and getting that big money machine and Sky behind you to fight. I've actually watched those cards and they weren't, he had to fight. He was a professional fighter, but, there wasn't the exposure or promotion behind those cards.
Big chum, didn't he? Is it Daniel Cadman?
Yeah, and
Robin knocked him spark out, didn't he? Eddie Hearn's big mate, and Robin were there to be donkey fodder for him, wasn't he?
yeah, and he went on, and he actually made 5 defenses of that WBF title, and he fought a good Julio Cesar Vasquez, who was a former IBF world champion, and he fought a hard South African in Zoon Boots as well, but he had to give up that title because I think at the time they were looking to get him in the position for the IBF, so the IBF wouldn't put him in the rankings because he was a WBF title holder, so he had to vacate that, and he fought 4 more 8-rounder fights before that. Then we come to that infamous fight in Germany.
Yeah, he fought Kenny Anderson at the end, didn't he, after the winning prize fight? He fought Kenny Anderson. He did all right in that, but I think Kenny got on top of him. But where it all gets sour for me is Kenny Anderson failed the dope test, didn't he? Did you know that?
Shocking. I actually didn't know that, Russell.
They failed the dope test and they buried it, didn't they? 18-month test. Eddie
Unbelievable.
Failed the dope test for amphetamine. Kenny Anderson never fought again. And when Robin pulled Eddie Hearn about it, he said, well, you were going to retire anyway. But Robin said, well, hang on a minute. If you'd have told me within the first 3 months, because Kenny Anderson's lot, they all knew, but nobody said anything. If you'd have told me straight away, I wouldn't have retired, would I? I'd have surely been put straight back in for vacant British against Paul Smith, except they let Paul Smith fight Tony Dodson for it, didn't they? So I think that left a bad sour taste in Robin's mouth, really. So Eddie Hearn, you fucking piece of shit, you knew about that dope test. And that gets swept away because Robin's not one of them to make loads of noise about it. He just let it go because he retired, didn't he? But like I said, 18 months after that fight, he heard about it. He was like, well, if they'd told me straight away, I'd have carried on because there's a 15-month difference. He still were young enough, do you know what I mean? But well, it's gone now. And look, what he can take from it is he was a top amateur, silver medal at World Championships Juniors, Olympic bronze medal at Olympics. He's got a son called Oscar. He named him after Oscar De La Hoya because they were in Olympic Village together in '92. So he could take the Bunce's kid's called Oscar as well. Actually, he named his kid Oscar. So Robin can take heed from that. You know, he's done all right out of the job. Could have done a lot better. I'm a bit gutted he didn't have that Ricky Hatton fight last year. Ricky Hatton pulled out. They were going to fight, you know, in like an exhibition.
Yeah.
That didn't happen, and the promoters involved and all that lost the money that they put up for arena and all that. But I'd like to see him come back and get a few quid in an exhibition, just because I feel that he's been cheated in his career. There's people who are trying to get fights in these exhibitions who are multi-millionaires, and it's just pure greed. I'd like to see Robin get a few quid because I like him and he's a pal. But I'm happy with what he's done in his career. He's got 4 wins over world champions, same as Clinton Woods, same as Tyson Fury, Bellew. So, as far as I'm concerned, he's done all right. But
yeah, he's had
my glasses are full for me.
Yeah, it's disappointing. You know, he didn't reach the heights and didn't, you know, get that IBF. You know, he didn't get that decision for that IBF fight against Otka. I actually think it's the worst judging decision and worst refereeing decision I have ever seen in boxing.
When you look at that, WBA and IBF there, he had WBC and split decision against Carl Zagat, WBO, and he won IBO. So really, he's fought for all belts. He's won 2 out of the 5, and the other 3, you could make a case that he were robbed in one, and the Carl Zagat one really could have gone either way, couldn't it? And
yeah, and even looking, you know, it was just disappointing he wasn't given that world title opportunity. You know, against the likes of, you know, WBC was like a round robin belt after that. You know, we had, you know, Richie Woodall had won the world title. You know, why did they not make a big domestic fight against Richie Woodall?
Look at what we fought. Brian McGee undefeated, Carl Zaggy undefeated, Frotch undefeated, Lacey undefeated, Sven Ocker undefeated. Who's fucking doing that now? Who's
Nobody.
At this current crop? Who's
Nobody.
guys like that, undefeated guys? Nobody. They're all swerving them, aren't they?
No, and even as well, you look at even Ken Clatley, who went and won the WBC title in Germany, knocking out Marcus Bayer. There could have been a fight there. That was another big domestic fight that wasn't made. It could have been made. So you're right in what you say. There's those fights, but there was also all those other fights there that could have been made that would have been good business sense, and the public would have wanted to see it. But yeah, you're right. It's a glass half empty career, but he did achieve a lot. His record is a stellar record. 42.
You'd have been a superstar if you were from Ireland, mate.
Absolutely. Even fighters in Ireland at the minute, you go back, even Michael Carruth in Ireland is still a big star. Michael Carruth, okay, didn't do great as a professional because he spent most of his life as an amateur, but he's still a big star as as a boxing person. McGuigan, as much as maybe not so much in Northern Ireland, with the whole Frampton thing and all, but he's still got a great legacy as a boxer, and he will be a big star. And it's just disappointing, but you look at that amateur record right the whole way through, the names he's fought, that it's an absolutely amazing career. Many fighters now in the super middleweight ranks in UK middleweight will go on to have that type of career.
Yeah. Okie dokie then. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, Ken. Thanks for doing all groundwork on this. I know most of it anyway, but you've obviously gone over it and refreshed my memory a bit better than me. But thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I know you've got COVID and that, but other than that, Kent, have you got to stay in the house? Can't go out running?
No, can't do nothing. I'm just going to stay in for the time. Actually, I don't think I could go out running. I was actually going to start training for a marathon there in April. So that's that been put to kip. So it has. So I'm not really bothered. I've done what I wanted to do when I was running and competing, and I've done more than what I set out to achieve. So I'm not going to beat myself over. I just miss getting to the gym and doing some strength work. I've been training in the gym now I train every day, obviously, but I set myself a couple of goals for the next couple of months, and they've just been put to rest for a couple of weeks. So it's just one of them things. There's people out there a lot worse off than me and with worse illnesses and stuff. So I could just rest up for a few days and do a bit of research and watch a bit of boxing and just chill out. It's not the end of the world.
Okie dokie. Well, listen, Kent, we'll get this out today. And thank you very much. You've been a great addition to the Porky Express train.
No problem, Russell. Take care, my friend.
Take care.
All the best.
Cheers, mate.
How was that?
That was brilliant, Kent. That was brilliant.
Was it?
I haven't turned it off yet, mate. I'll get you turned off. I'll speak to you later. That was Ken. He always does that at the end of every video. How was that? Did I do okay? So, yeah, of course you did, Ken. You've read the Robin Reid Wikipedia the last 2 days. So well done, Kent. And good luck with your COVID. I've had it, mate. It's not very nice. All right. Peace out.